And we're all set.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Markle, the Executive Director of the Barrie Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining the Barrie Chamber Small Business Center and Sandbox today for our free webinar, The 4 C's of COVID Relief Initiatives and More, summarizing what's there for you. Over the past several weeks, every level of government has continually updated its economic response plan, offering support for individuals and businesses to get through COVID-19. The situation has been evolving daily and even hourly in some cases. The conversation is now shifting towards recovery planning. In today's session, Mike Kostrich will be covering the options available for businesses and how you can make them work for your business, with a focus on looking past survival to growth and return on investment. So please note, there's not going to be any Q&A today. If you have questions, and that we will provide this in the chat and in on our other platforms, please email your questions to webinar@barriechamber.com, and we'll do our best to get the information to you as soon as possible. Mike has assured us that his presentation is thorough, and because of the number of diverse businesses out there, would be really lengthy to start getting into individual cases. So this is more general in nature. So our speaker today is Mike Kostrich of Michael Kostrich CPA Professional Corporation. Mike's professional career has been focused on providing accounting and tax and business advisory services to a variety of clients, both individuals and corporations, whose owners have an entrepreneurial flair and a burning desire to succeed. As a CPA and CA, his 30 years of knowledge, experience, and wisdoms are delivered to his clients with a personalized approach, providing them with practical advice, giving them clarity and peace of mind so that they can focus on what they need to do to grow and prosper. So thank you very much for joining us today, Mike. And without further ado, let's get at it.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you allowing me to be here. I am going to just flip onto our PowerPoint. Let me see here. So are you guys good with my screen now? Right,
yeah, looks great.
Okay. All right, so agenda for today is simply to just give a quick update on some stats and where to find information on COVID relief initiatives, to review the 4 C's. So that would be the CERB, CEWS, CEBA, and CERB. I'm trying to figure out all these acronym names that we were going to cover. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the and more initiatives. So the CEWS program, the BCAP, a couple of larger programs, and just touch on the agri-industry. So here we go. So interestingly, I just pulled some stats this morning from various websites. So the CERB program, as of May 19th, there have been 14.31 million applications processed and $38.41 billion in CERB benefits paid out to date. CEWS was, latest was May 11th, 132,000 applications processed, covering almost 1.7 employees being supported, and to date 3.36 billion in CEWS benefits paid out. And for CEBA, from a recent PM announcement, because they didn't have anything on a website, there have been over 600,000 applications processed, which means 24 billion based on $40,000 loans, and CEBA loans provided by financial institutions to business owners. So where can you find information on COVID relief initiatives? It's always good to have sources to have a look at. A couple of them are the Prime Minister's office and the Premier's office press release web pages. They will issue a press release right after an initiative is launched, and it will provide initial details which are good to be able to get a grasp of what is going on with the new initiative. So those are the first 2 places to look at. The federal government has a fantastic web page called Canada's COVID-19 Economic Response Plan. It's a landing page and it's well organized, and it breaks down the support between individuals, businesses, and organizations or special groups. And you can drill down into there and go into other web pages that will give you more information on each program. So I would always have that one kicking around. Ontario has a similar landing page for COVID-19, which you can get information from the Ontario government as to their initiatives. And locally, the city of Barrie also has a COVID-19 landing page, which talks about things they're doing for the city of Barrie residents in terms of COVID-19 efforts. So those would be good spots for you guys to look at when you're looking at trying to find some information. So what are the 4 C's? So CERB would be the Canada Emergency Response Benefit. CEWS is the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy Program. CEBA is the Canada Emergency Business Account Loan Program. And CERASA, can't pronounce that properly, is the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program, which is soon to be kicking into gear. So let's walk through each one of these quickly and help identify what they are. So what's CERB? It's $500 per week taxable payment to individuals for a maximum of 16 weeks through 2019. Remember the word taxable because it will be on your tax return for 2020. I believe they are not taking any source deduction withholdings on it, so there will be some tax to pay on your filing of your 2020 tax return potentially on CERB payments. It's available from March 15th to October 3rd. There are 4-week block periods that you can apply for. There are 7 blocks available and you can apply for 4 of them. And you can apply no later than December 2nd to be able to access the CERB program. There is an FAQ page for CERB, which is fantastic. It talks about all the different kinds of eligibility and income requirements and various scenarios of different people, whether you're part-time retired, a student, those kinds of things. It's a great resource to be able to go to be able to determine whether you're eligible or not. And then how do you apply? Well, you can do it online via website, the CRA website, or you can phone it into CRA, depending on which method you choose. You'll have to have certain personal and employment information details to be able to apply. You will have to agree to an attestation comment that you are eligible for the CERB payment. And they are indicating that there's going to be mechanisms for penalty and interest on improper payments being issued. I have not heard yet on what those details are. It's just been out there in their publications so far. So that is CERB in a short nutshell. CEWS, which is the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy Program, is a subsidy to assist employers in retaining employees during COVID times. You can get up to 75% wage subsidy to eligible employers. It's up to 12 weeks, effective March 15th. Although there was an announcement on May 15th to extend CEWS to August 29th, which is an additional 12 weeks. Also, there are ongoing consultations on adjustments to what the eligibility requirements are for that additional period. Currently, it's 15% in March or 30% in April and May with respect to your year-over-year of 2020 versus 2019 revenues, or it's based on your average of January and February of 2020 compared to March and April and May. So hopefully we'll find some more information on that in the coming days or weeks. The good thing about the CEWS program is there's a detailed application guide. It gives you an online calculator to do a calculation for how much of the subsidy you'll be able to get. And there's also the integration of the temporary wage subsidy program, which is the other program if you don't qualify for CEWS. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But when you apply for CEWS, you actually only get 65% of the wage subsidy, and you will have to apply for the 10% through the TWS program, either ongoing through your monthly source deductions remittances or later via another application online. There's also a FAQ technical guide with CEWS, which is very informative. It runs through all kinds of questions. It's being updated regularly. So you'll find this very useful in determining answers to a lot of the most frequently asked questions with respect to the application. How do you apply? You can apply via your CRA My account if you've got access to it. You can do it on phone into CRA, or You can also potentially get somebody who is an authorized individual through the represent a client, such as perhaps your person who's doing your bookkeeping or your accounting firm to make the application on your behalf. You again will have to complete some information. You'll have to do a special attestation form, which is the RC 661 form, to complete, and then you submit it. Our understanding, based on the experience to date, is that the process is fairly smooth. Once the information is received, you make it a quick phone call to verify a couple of things, and the applications will be approved, and you'll have your funds typically within a 7 to 10 business days. So that's a pretty quick turnaround, given that they're trying to do a national program and implement it over basically 2 to 4 weeks. There are some penalties that apply to CEWS if you're not doing it properly. So if you are trying to artificially create transactions to reduce revenue to qualify for CEWS, and CRA determines that this is the case, there is a potential penalty of 25% of the CEWS claimed amount for that. If you are doing a gross negligence type of scenario where you're applying for a greater amount than what you're entitled to, the penalty is 50% of the excess versus the proper amount that should have been claimed. And there's also a potential penalty for a criminal offense if they find you are making false or deceptive statements. So you want to make sure that you're documenting your CEWS calculations and eligibility properly and filing them appropriately. Next program, CEBA, which is the Canadian Emergency Business Account. It was intended to be a $40,000 interest-free loan for eligible businesses to help cover operating costs, so things such as rent, insurance, certain overheads of running your business while it is either in a reduced revenue state or temporarily ceased because of COVID restrictions. The CEBA loans are 100% government guaranteed. They're interest-free. There's no specific periodic repayments on the loan until December of 2022. If the loan's repaid prior to them, you are eligible for up to a 25% loan forgiveness of if you happen to get the $40,000. So up to $10,000 in loan forgiveness. Eligibility, the initial criteria was simply payroll in a range of $50,000 to $1 million. It was amended to change the range from 50 down to 20 and 1 million up to 1.5. On May 19th, which is yesterday, there was an expansion of the CEBA eligibility to now include sole proprietors, businesses that rely on contractors, so there's no payroll involved, and family corporations who pay out dividends. The expansion criteria is that you have an operating business account, a CRA business number, you've filed a tax return in either 2018 or 2019, and you've got a minimum of $40,000 in non-deferrable expenses, which would be those things like rent, insurance, overheads, etc. How do you apply for CEBA? Again, it's an online portal application with your financial institution, so that's the one that you primarily bank with. The initial CEBA application requires you that you have your CRA business number and your 2019 payroll amount on hand. The expansion CEBA criteria, the details are not yet finalized. I don't think they've opened up the portals yet because the announcement was yesterday. And again, you're going to have to attest to the eligibility criteria that you're eligible for CEBA before submitting. So that's CEBA. Haven't heard of specific penalties relating to people that might not qualify for CEBA but have applied and gotten it. So that will likely come out down the road as well. Okay, the last one of the 4 C's, which is the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance Program. It is a forgivable loan to qualifying commercial property owners. The logic is that it covers 50% of 3 monthly rent payments for April, May, and June. There's supposed to be a sharing of the cost between the 2 governments at 25% each, the tenant 25%, and 25% by the landlord because they are foregoing that part of the rent. The loans will be forgiven if the property owner agrees to a 75% rent reduction under a rent forgiveness agreement with the tenant. In order to qualify as the tenant, you have to be an impacted small business or a nonprofit or a charitable organization who has rent of less than $50,000 a month, and you've either temporarily ceased operations or experienced at least a 70% drop in pre-COVID revenue activity. Interestingly enough, they just released the loan forgiveness agreement. It's 5 pages long. There's a link here. It's an interesting read. And I'll come back to that in a moment. How do you apply for it? You can go to the CMHC portal to see what information you will need to apply. The launch date is May 25th. This was the Prime Minister's announcement this morning. So launch date is Monday. And he's also indicated for larger retailers, there is more support to be announced soon. So the big thing about this particular initiative is the debate between landlords and tenants as to whether landlords want to do this program, because it is not a mandatory program, it's voluntary. And of course, I think the debate really is between, do you try to get 100% recovery of your rent through some other means than just the tenant paying you? I mean, we have seen scenarios where in the past, if someone has not paid rent, they've either personally guaranteed the lease and or have been slapped with a lien on personal property to pay for the rent arrears when that property is refinanced. Those things have happened. Versus the other side of the coin, which is everybody working together and getting 75% for 3 months is better than perhaps not, and creating some substantial goodwill with your tenants for long-term relationships. So that's where the debate is at the moment. I haven't heard, you guys can probably speak to some experience on that later, but that's where that program is at the moment. Applications start on Monday, so it'll be interesting to see what the statistics are on this. So what are the and more initiatives? So those are the temporary wage program at 10%, the BCAP program, which is being delivered through BDC, which we'll talk about, a couple of initiatives that recently came out for large employers and through regional relief, and then a quick note on agri-food and what kind of initiatives are available for them. So the 10% wage subsidy program is a 10% wage subsidy for employers who don't meet the CEWS criteria, or you might meet CEWS, you still have to apply for the 10% on this particular program. It's available for up to 10 weeks. It started effective March 15th, 2020. When they made the announcement for the CEWS extension, they did not include the TWS specifically, so we're hoping to find out more clarification on that as further details are announced. Eligibility, it's simply based on employees' gross payroll payments made, 10% of the gross, and it's based on a per employee calculation. And you can only deduct the 10% against the income tax portion of the source deductions. So you can't do it against CPP or EI. So if there's if the tax withheld for the period of an employee is less than the 10% of the subsidy calculated, then you can only claim the tax withheld, and the amount gets carried forward and you can apply it in a future period. How do you apply for the TWS? You normally don't need a formal application. You simply do the calculation. You subtract it from the subsidy on your source deductions remittance. I would recommend you utilize a spreadsheet to keep track of things, to calculate your subsidies for each claim. If CRA requests details later on, you can just provide them quickly with the spreadsheet, and it should be an easy verification. BCAP program. So this is a loan of up to $2 million to finance working capital to businesses that are affected by COVID-19. The terms of the loan are interest only for the first 12 months. For the months, that should say 12 to 35 or 13 to 35, blended payments of 40% of the principal, so they'll work a blended payment amortization for those 23 months on 40% of the principal. And then the final 60% of the principal is due as a balloon payment at the end of the 36th month. There's a floating interest rate. The initial rate was 3.3% when it was first introduced, which was BDC's base rate, less 1.75%. As of May 1st, that discount of 1.75 has been eliminated, and the interest rate for applications now is 4.45%. May 11th, there was an announcement to announce the expansion of the BCAP program to mid-sized businesses for up to $60 million per company. Eligibility. So 2 ways of doing this. If you need less than $100,000, you can do an online application. You need to be in business for 2 years. You need to have revenues of $100,000 in a year, or greater than $100,000. And you need to have a strong credit score, and your priority payables, such as your government payables, etc., need to be current. If you're doing an internal application for amounts greater than $100,000, you're going to have to provide prior year financials, year-to-date internals, a 6-month cash flow indicating how you're dealing with COVID. And the program is aimed at assisting profitable, credible, and sustainable businesses to help them with their working capital through COVID. What that means is, if you're a company that's been generating losses in the past, you have shareholder debits, you have unpaid payables with respect to your government remittances, etc., you will likely be denied very quickly under this program. How do you apply? Well, it depends. If you're doing under 100K, you can apply online. Otherwise, you have to approve internally. There's been a significant influx in applications and a backlog. So the approval is for 4 weeks, a 4-week period. If you think about it, I've been told that BDC had about 10,000 applications last year. And initially, when the program opened for BCAP, they had, I think in the first couple of weeks, over 14,000 applications. So, manpower is being stretched to be able to work through these applications and get them approved. However, once your application is approved, the funding will typically land in your account within a week. So we'll talk about LEAF and RRF. So the LEAF is the Large Employer Emergency Financing Facility Program. Again, it's intended for bridge financing for large employers whose needs are not being met through conventional financing. There are certain criteria and commitments that need to be made in order to qualify for the program and to stay in it. The applications for this financing are open today, as announced by the Prime Minister announcement this morning, at the CDEV website, and I've provided a link to that website. For those who aren't yet qualifying through CEBA or other programs, there is a Regional Relief and Recovery Fund initiative, which is available through FedDev, that provides interest-free loans to help support, again, the fixed ongoing costs of SMEs, where revenues have been affected through COVID. The eligibility and application details are on their website, and I've attached a link for that in here as well. You can Google it as well when you're looking for these programs. The last one I want to touch on is the agri-industry. So there's $252 million there to support it, $77 million through food processing, to food processors for PPE and protocol changes to their programs through COVID, $125 million to fund farmers to adapt to market changes, and $50 million to actually purchase surplus foods from farmers and redistribute them to organizations that need them. Again, the Prime Minister's release on his press release page is there. Very little detail on more information simply because it was a recent announcement. So that's like a super quick overview of what is out there as of this morning. There are other obvious initiatives. So we all know that if you have HST, that you are, if you are supposed to be filing HST right now, you can defer the filing and the payment on that until June 30th, as of this morning at least. If you're doing your personal tax filing, the filing deadline is June 1st versus April 30th. If you're a self-employed individual, your personal tax filing deadline is still June 15th. But if you have payments, those payments aren't required to be made until August 31st. We still don't have clarification on whether or not penalties will be applied if you haven't filed by June 1st, but do so subsequently and make your payment prior to August 31st. There's debate on that, and hopefully we'll find out soon what the right answer to that is. Corporately, again, if you are requiring to make payments as of after, I believe it was March 17th, you can delay in making those payments until August 31st, and interest will not be charged. And the same thing is true for corporate installments. If you're required to make them through this COVID period, you have the ability to defer them until August 31st as well. And that's as of this morning. So that's the update in a nutshell, gentlemen.
Wow, that's a lot of information to absorb. I'm sure most businesses out there have been keeping themselves abreast of all these different changes, but that was a great summary of basically what's out there right now and what's available with the most recent updates. Thank you very much for putting that together, Mike. I know you're super busy right now with everything that's happening as well as looking after your clients, so we certainly appreciate the time it took to put this together. Again, there's going to be no Q&A for today. I mean, I think that Mike was pretty thorough in asking his questions. If you do have them, again, send your email your questions to webinar@barriechamber.com, and we'll do our best to get the information to you as quickly as possible. At this time, I'd like to introduce David Hyde from the Small Business Center to thank our speaker and say a few words about how they're able to help you get you through this situation as well. I apologize to Dave for not introducing him earlier. I'm a bit of a rookie running these panels, so there you are, Dave.
That's quite all right, Paul. Thank you so much. We're all on a steep learning curve here. Eh? We're all becoming Zoom ninjas these days. Mike, I just want to start off by echoing what Paul said. Thank you so much for donating your time. That was a very succinct overview of what's out there, and I'm sure business owners can refer back to that later on as their sort of their one-stop shop for navigating their way through the government program. So thank you very much again, very much appreciated. Thank you to our partners at the Chamber. One of the things that I've really noticed as a strength of our local economy and our local communities since COVID-19 struck was the strength of our partnerships and how we pulled together as a business support community. And one of our strongest partnerships is certainly with the Chamber. So thank you for working with us on this and really pulling today together. As for the Small Business Center, all of our services are continuing remotely, obviously, but we still are there to provide advice, guidance, referrals, business plan assistance, just general business discussion to the small business community here in Barrie. So please don't, if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have questions or discussion points around your business or around the government, services are available to you, the programs, the partnerships that we can leverage through our community, through the Chamber, through the Sandbox, through the Henry Bernick Center. Please do reach out to us. Our website is barriebusinesscenter.ca, and we're happy to help. We've received some questions lately around the Starter Company Plus program. That is still going ahead, August, September of this year. It's going to have obviously a bit more of a recovery focus than a starting your business focus. But I would encourage people to reach out to us for information on that. Our email address is smallbusiness@barrie.ca if you're interested in that program. It does come with a small grant portion for those that qualify. The main thrust for us at the moment within the Small Business Center as being part of the City of Barrie is around recovery planning. So many of you will have heard that at the moment we're deep in our consultation process. We are reaching out to business via various sector consultations to obtain feedback as to how COVID-19 has affected you and what are some of the things that we as a city could put in place to really kickstart our recovery. So those consultations are ongoing, but there are 2 public forums by which you can contribute. They're both located on the Building Barrie website. And one is a business survey that I would encourage you to complete and share with all of your business contacts. And the other is a public forum. You know, we want any and all input from the good people of Barrie as to how we best recover from COVID-19. And the last thing I just want to put on your radar, date to be announced, hopefully within the next 48 hours, we are sponsoring a food safety certification course. So again, specific to COVID-19, the City of Barrie, Tourism Barrie, and the BIA is covering the cost for 200 people within the food services industry, be that hotel, catering, restaurant, doesn't matter, food trucks, to gain certification that they are COVID-19 food safety certified and can then carry that forward as a way of instilling consumer confidence in your ability to deliver your products safely. So look out for that. That'll be you know, pushed out through ourselves and through the chamber and our other partners, hopefully within the next 48 hours. Once again, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Paul, for putting this on today. And everybody, please, you know, stay safe and feel free to reach out to us anytime. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, David. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of interactivity, you know, happening between all the different you know, pieces in the ecosystem, Sandbox, Small Business Center, the city. You know, there's lots of stuff that's out there that is very valuable. In fact, there's a lot of information. It's almost information overload when you get down to it. But it's all relevant. It's all important, and I think it's all designed to help businesses reopen properly. So, in closing, I'd like to thank you both for joining us. And for the work that you're doing in their business every day. We urge you and every leader in our community to immediately shift focus to the singular objective of slowing the pace in transmission of the coronavirus. Both federal and provincial governments have enacted measures that will not only be effective to all employers to step up and do their part, protect our provincial health and welfare. The Chamber has recently taken on an initiative where we you know, send out a note to our members asking for companies that are providing PPE, and that is now live on our website. So along with the other resources that you have out there, if you are reopening, and we know that that's happening this week, you know, go to that site if you're trying to find masks or sanitizers or cleaning signage, anything related to getting your business back up and open safely. That resource is there for you on a local basis. There is one also provided by the Ontario government that is more province-wide. And maybe include some things that we don't have regionally. They also, you know, the Chamber is going to continue to provide content that's more specific and related to reopening and the things that are immediately in front of us as we go from phase 1 into phase 2. So I would hope that everybody would come back to the Chamber and to the website and see what we're doing. We also implore everybody to shop locally. You know, keep our businesses intact and in town. If you can go pick up your meal, then go and do it. But again, stay safe and make sure that local businesses are supported because they're going to need all the help we get. Social distancing measures will be slowly lifted. Please ensure that you continue to follow all requirements and take them seriously. These are not to be taken lightly, even if the fear may be wearing off as the summer comes. The main priority is keeping the community safe, which is, again, the responsibility of us all collectively. I was lucky enough to get a round of golfing yesterday at one of our courses locally, and they were doing a great job, and it was nice to get out in the sun and actually do something that was relatively normal. So I wish you all a safe rest of the week, and thank you very much again for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.
Bye now.